Nice to see you. We're going to talk about experimentation today. Let me just see if the clicker works. Yeah, so why don't we start with one small experiment? You've been sitting for 2 hours. Why don't we have this half of the room stand up? Stand up, please. Do it with me. Don't be afraid. It's an experiment. Nobody can fail. We're safe. Deep breath. And out. Breathe in. And out. All right, sit down. Feeling refreshed, feeling better. Let's get through this together. This is a new thing for me. I wasn't afraid to do it. You shouldn't be afraid to experiment either. Who am I? I'm from Poland. I've come here together with Adam. Beautiful city, Vilnius, my first time. I'm working at Aspect. We're a growth advisory and agency working with AI and Web3 startups, helping them with product market fit, with go-to-market, with operations. So basically going from 0 to 100. I have experience working with agencies. I've co-founded an agency together with Adam, the Growth Engine, which we later sold to Ladder. We grew Ladder to 45 people. I've managed multiple teams there and across other companies where I've also hired growth marketers. That's why it's really cool to be able to talk about this and work with people that are practitioners. I'm a Reforge alumni, very big fan of Reforge. If nobody knows what it is, it's a great site with courses and resources for anybody that works on product growth, marketing growth, for founders. Really cool stuff. And they recently published my Artifact, which is a content marketing framework. So if you want to check it out, let me know. And I'm always curious about growth, because product growth is really what matters. If marketing says one thing, the user comes to the product and they see something different, they're going to have a bad time. They're going to churn. They're not going to activate. Your customer acquisition cost is going to go to nothing. And maybe you'll learn, hopefully, maybe not. But nonetheless, it's not something that's going to work out in the long run. So why don't I start with a little story to get your attention, to get you going. In 2004, an engineer from a startup has gone to a marketing conference, just like the one we have here today. And he's been really captivated by a talk about A/B testing, something completely new that he thought was interesting and he wanted to bring back to his company. So what he did is he presented that to his leadership team. They were initially skeptical because it's new, like you usually are with somebody brings a new tool or a new methodology to work. You're like, yeah, but why use it if we've gone this far without it? But after his arguments made sense, they were convinced. They started doing it. They've built a tool because that was 2004. There was no off-the-shelf tool you could just install and do A/B testing. So they had to do everything step by step on their own. The first few experiments did not go very well, but who gets it right on their first try? I fell a lot of times when I was riding my bike for the first time. Same when I was walking, same when I was doing marketing. And yet here I'm here. I've done it, and you can try that as well. But eventually, they got going. They got some experiments to succeed. They learned how to do it properly. They got some learnings, team wins, morale boosting, and showing the value to the board, to the leadership, has been proven to give them more resources, more time, more money to be able to do more of it. And long story short, they've grown from 2007 until 2022 by over $15 billion in revenue. Now, you might ask, sounds great. I'm sure most of you, if not everybody, already has used that product or seen it. Anybody guess what that company might be? It's Booking.com. Everybody's used it. Everybody's tried it. And imagine now if that engineer didn't go to that conference in 2004. If he didn't bring that idea of A/B testing, where would they be now? Because eventually they would figure it out. Probably later, maybe not. And they wouldn't be where they are right now as a world leader. Because whenever you think of hotels, at least me, I go to Booking.com, I find the best places. No, I'm not an investor, don't worry. And it's a great product that has gotten there because they've tested so many things, they've learned. And they have become literally the epitome of experiment culture. Whenever you see somebody that worked at Booking, you're going to be confident they already have seen a lot of experimentation. They've seen the methodology, the tooling, the hypothesis creation, the learnings, the data analysis, Or whenever you are applying to Booking, you might think, I'm going to learn all that because they are really known for experimentation. That's what creates really cool culture beyond the company and within the company. And just to give you a reference, currently, they're running around 1,000 A/B tests at the same time. Of course, not everything in the same place. Some on the website, in the mobile app, in their email, in their content, in their ad campaigns. So it's spread out, but nonetheless, imagine the amount of learning that they're getting. Imagine if you were able to learn 10 things about your product, about your customers every month. Because maybe that's where you start. Maybe you start with 1, maybe with 3, but they've gotten that snowball effect rolling, and they've reached the number of 1,000. Incredible, lots of learning, and now think that you're competing against a company like that. They're a behemoth. They have so much insight, so much brand revenue, so much brand recognition that it's really difficult to overthrow them from the #1 position in the world. And by the way, they are the biggest client of Google. They are spending over $1 billion a year on Google Ads. Just the scale of this operation is scary. I think you've seen a part of this from Adam. So the S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies in the US stock exchange, how they've been growing over the years, and a comparison to how companies that experiment are growing. So getting that exponential growth. If the first story didn't convince you, hopefully this data will, that experimentation, even starting small, is the key to be able to grow big, to become maybe the next Booking, hopefully. So if this is all so great, fun, successful, why doesn't everybody do it? Why isn't every company experimenting? Why isn't everybody learning like they were? Well, there are a few different problems. For example, the ad hoc approach. However many times I've heard or seen or experienced somebody come up to me, we have to do this cool thing. Our competitors did it. Somebody just tweeted about it. And all of a sudden, my deep work is gone. My schedule for the week is gone. I don't know what am I focusing on because all of a sudden this is a priority. And nobody's accountable if it fails because somebody said, yeah, it's a cool idea, but are they the owner? Am I because I'm executing on it? What's really happening? That's why I really like the way product development teams work, where they have sprints. They plan for the sprint, they agree what they're going to deliver, by when, they're going to review what they've delivered at the end, and they are protected from any ad hocs during that process. If you want to add anything to their roadmap, you've got to go through the product owner or product manager to be able to do that in the next sprint and the one after that. So they are still focusing on what they decided upon during the sprint planning. I'm a very big believer that growth and marketing teams should do something very similar, maybe leave a little bit of a window for any ad hocs, but only a limited one so that people know if they have an ad hoc, it's got to be only 1 or maybe 2 maximum at all. What else? Big, shiny ideas. Founders are great people, don't get me wrong. They are what makes the startup world happen. Without them, nothing would be built, nothing would be scaled and grown. But very often they're visionaries. They've got this great vision of what they want to achieve. Very often that vision goes very wide. And whenever you are starting a company, your scale is small, your budgets are small, and you have small capabilities, so it's best to have a laser focus on what are you getting done. Like, for example, imagine Uber. They are great at getting you from point A to point B, matching you with a driver, and it's a better experience than a taxi. And you know the cost, and you have a lot of information about where the driver is, who they are. So it's great. But imagine if they started doing food right away, and transit, and car renting. The focus would be all over the place. They wouldn't be able to perfect the core product. And who knows where would they be? So start small, focus on it, save those ideas, the big ones, for later, or maybe for a side project that you're going to be able to work on in the meantime, but laser focus. Losing sight of goals. Everybody has been to a meeting, oh, these are our goals for the month, or the quarter, or the year. These are the responsible people, but you work on it, a week passes, 2, maybe 3. All of a sudden, people start forgetting about it. They don't go to the goal document anymore. They still have their old project that they are about to finish. And eventually, these goals get forgotten. They get dust all over them. And yeah, we have goals, but what are we doing about it? Not really sure. So that really doesn't help the team morale. Whenever I know I have a goal, I know I'm working towards that, and I know that I'm focusing my efforts on it. My team is doing that too, and we are aligned. We are pulling in the same direction. We're not all over the place because we have a goal that I'm owning this part of it, for example. Somebody's owning another part of it. And together, by contributing, we're going to make it happen. Time management is difficult. Like the sprints and product development teams, you have to have structure on how you're working. If everything is happening all at once, like in that movie, nothing gets done. There's chaos. There's loads and loads of confusion. But if you start, whether that's tracking your time or working in sprints or understanding what your roadmap is, even for things like content production, even for ad campaigns, for something small that everybody can relate to, if it doesn't have to be product related, but nonetheless, you know step by step what you're doing. I don't know about you, but to me, that helps. I like process. I like being organized. I like knowing what to focus on step by step, because then that eliminates the moment of confusion. What should I work on next? And that just turns into 1 hour YouTube binge. Everybody's been there. I know. You don't have to admit it. So how many of you can relate to at least one of those things when it comes to your work? Thank you. I can relate to all. I've worked with clients. I worked with in-house teams. I worked with founders. We're all to blame for it. Nobody's perfect, but it's a matter of figuring out how can we do it better. So, skip one. How can we solve it? What's the idea that can bring you at least one step closer to be able to do it? Oh, clicking all over the place. Hypothesis-driven approach. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. I'm a very big believer and really would love to share how you can do it based on examples. Just a few that I'm sure at least some of you are going to be familiar with. Google AdWords. You've seen the ads on top of the search engine result page. So there was a hypothesis at Google that we have banner ads and we have the search engine result page. But if somebody's searching for red Nike shoes, we're going to show them red Nike shoes at the top of the page because they're relevant to what they're searching for. Hypothesis confirmed. Google search ads have become one of their most successful products. Recommendation algorithm at Netflix. Everybody's been using Netflix at one point or another until they logged you out because you've been using your cousin's or your ex-girlfriend's account. Happened to my parents, actually. No, not their ex-girlfriend. No, that's my account. But they've hypothesized if we recommend the right kind of content to our users, they're going to watch more. They're not going to be churning as much, so they're going to be more engaged. Proved right. I got binged with Netflix so many times, as I'm sure so many of you have too. Amazon one-click checkout. Whenever there are obstacles between the user and the end result, so buying that stuff, you try to eliminate as many as possible, and Amazon has actually patented the one-click checkout. You will look at the product, you're logged in, one click, it's already being sent your way. They have your payment, they have your address, they know it. It's easy, quick, and without much effort, you can get that stuff. Airbnb, different example from the one previously. Very early stage, Airbnb founders have figured out that their users that are renting their apartments, they suck at taking photos. I mean, you've seen it. Whenever you're renting an apartment, hotel, Airbnb, so many photos are terrible. You have no idea where you're going, what's going to be in there. You're like, is it 2 rooms? Is it 1 room? Is there a shower? Is there a kitchen? You don't know. So what they've done is they've taken some photos of their apartments in a real professional way. They hired photographers. They've gone there themselves even to be able to try that. Result? Much higher rate of booking from visit to each place that had professional photos. Slack. I'm sure for most of you at least are familiar because it's so easy and free to use. You can go to Slack, you can try it out, you can invite your team. Then eventually you're going to hit your maximum messages limit and be like, do I want to pay for it to be able to recover the previous messages and have the history or not? That has turned out to be, first, higher usage because there's a lower barrier of entry, and then higher probability of conversion to paid user because they've gotten so familiar and accustomed to the tool. But not all hypotheses have been correct. I'm sure you remember Google Glass, the Google founders going on stage with that camera, super high tech, so cool, next generation. Nobody wanted to use it. Like, why do I need some camera on my glasses? Where's my privacy? What's it going to bring to my life? Didn't work out. Microsoft Zune, great product, don't get me wrong. They were competing with the iPhone. Technology was great, but their marketing wasn't so great, and there was already iPhone that was leading the market. Microsoft Zune, gone. Tumblr. Maybe some of you have been familiar with Tumblr before it was acquired. Yahoo wanted to reach younger audiences. So how do they do that? Well, their product is for old people. At least that was their hypothesis. So they've acquired Tumblr for a nice figure of $230 million. But the problem was, didn't work out because Tumblr started tanking, and the way that they managed it didn't help at all. So quite an expensive hypothesis. Do not recommend. So in the end, what helps you build a successful growth engine? Not a cliffhanger. No. Setting clear goals. If you know where you're going, it's going to be easier for you to figure out how you're going there, to have your team rallied up around it, to be able to achieve it easier. So aligning business objectives so that all the teams are working towards the same thing. Say a sales team, know what you're working on, you know what the product team is working on, and you're all achieving the same goal by working together and just dividing it. How can I contribute to getting more leads? Am I producing more content, more ad campaigns, better conversion rates? How is product doing that? What kind of features are they shipping? How are sales representatives taking care of those leads? How are they contributing to the higher revenue that in the end is every company's goal? Data-driven. We all see data, but the question is, do we really pay attention to it? Are we tracking everything that we should be? Because there's something like leading indicators, like traffic, conversion rates, leads, that go towards contributing to your revenue. And by looking at all that, the step by step, you will see where the opportunity is by being able to contribute to them one at a time. It enhances collaboration and is a continuous improvement, because if you are focusing on this one metric, leads generated, you're going to be able to get better and better and better, learn with every iteration. Focusing on one thing at a time. If everybody's focusing on different things, everybody's rowing and pulling in different directions, that's not going to help. But when you're testing to improve this one metric, just one at a time, start small, then think about expanding later on. That's much easier and faster to start. You're going to have clear insights. You're going to know what has worked, what hasn't. Because imagine a test where I'm trying to increase conversion and amount of traffic on the website. So what am I really doing? What am I focusing on? How do I measure success? Do I make a function out of this too? It gets confusing. People are not understanding and losing contact with what is really happening. Ease of replication. When something didn't work, you can replicate it. You can just change it a little bit and still focus on the same outcome. And align the team around this one metric everybody's contributing to. Iteration. This is Ouroboros, the famous snake that eats its own tail, because everything's already happened, everything's a remix, so you just got to keep going again. Great artists steal, poor artists create themselves, because whatever we are thinking about relates to what we've learned before, what we've seen before, what we've done before, and through that, we're going to be able to learn, iterate, and apply our own spin, our own initiative on whatever you're doing, because everybody's different, every company is different, every product is different. It's now a matter of applying that to what you're doing and how you're doing it. So first is rarely best. Everybody knows MySpace. Where is it now? Nowhere. Because they were first, they were learning, but then Facebook ate their lunch. So it doesn't matter if you're first, it matters if you're the best, if you're learning and iterating. And validating what your hypothesis is. My hypothesis is that by standing up, you were able to get more oxygen in your body, you were paying more attention, and you're going to be able to remember more from this presentation. Afterwards, maybe we'll be able to validate that. And growth is never done. You can be done with this campaign, but that's not going to mean you're going to achieve all your goals forever. Because there's going to be competitors, there's going to be market changes, there's going to be algorithm changes to Google. There's going to be so many different variables that are going to change in the meantime. You're going to have to keep on working on it because otherwise somebody's going to eat your lunch like MySpace is. And embrace failure. That's not me. It could have been a few years ago. But if you're learning, you're not failing because you are able to take this step forward. Even if you got worse results because of your test, that you can just go back to the original version. There's no harm done. Don't be afraid. I've been afraid for many years to be able to test, to be able to not screw everything up, to be able to try and improve a little bit. You shouldn't be afraid because it's internet. You can always place the reverse button. You can always go back to the previous version, and everything's going to be okay. As long as you are learning, measuring what happened, and have an understanding of why. Why did my new ad, my new website design not work as well as the previous one? And that's your learning. It's simple, easy, shouldn't be scary. And it's psychological safety. If you are given the safety of, if I fail, I'm not getting fired. I'm not giving away any money or privileges. It's much easier for your brain to escape the prehistoric brain that we have, the lizard brain, so-called, where you feel like you're being attacked. You're always fighting for your life. And you're able to use your higher cognitive functions because more brain is working. You're safe. You're no longer fighting for your life. Then you can come up with better ideas. You're in a safe place. Like right now, I didn't mind if this experiment of you standing up and breathing is going to fail. That's no problem at all because we're all here in a safe spot. It's an innovation catalyst. If you're afraid to fail, you're not going to be able to put together those brave, really big ideas that might really move the needle more than 1%, more than 5%, might double your revenue, for example. And it's all about learning. If you're not learning, then what's the point of being here? What's the point of doing marketing? If you already feel like you know everything, then maybe we should switch places. Because I would love to be in that spot. And the further you go, the more you know, the more you don't know. Been there, done that. I feel like I'm an amateur after 8 years. And it's team resilience. If you are failing together and being, that's not a problem. We can do it again. We can try another repetition. That's fine. If you have that team spirit, you're winning. He isn't. Celebrate success. Whenever there is a successful test, because don't get me wrong, most of the time you're going to fail, and that's normal, that's natural. We're all going to be there. We've all been there when you've done experimentation. But if you have a success, you should celebrate it. You should really understand what happened that you came up with that idea. Where did it come from? How was that process going in the brain of the person that created the idea? How did you put it to life? So you learn from not just your failures, but your especially the successful cases. So it's not just, oh, great, done, it works, let's go to the next one. No, do a retro, understand, how can you do more of it? Growth is never done, again. Then you're gonna be able to have the positive reinforcement. More ideas are gonna come, less fear, and gonna get more resources, like with the engineer from Booking. The more success you have, the more confirmation is the leadership team, your founders, your managers are going to have in the way that what you're doing, that your experimentation, is bringing revenue, is bringing learnings, is moving you and your company forward. And it's knowledge sharing. Whenever you share with other teams, okay, we've done this. Our A/B test of including longer copy on our product page has increased conversion rates. You share it with the sales team. Maybe they're going to use it across their work. You share it with the customer support team. Maybe they will make it work on their own somehow. But it's about learning together and sharing that. Sprint reviews, again, going back to the software development process. By looking back, what happened? You're able to understand step by step what could be done better. Growth is never done. And stakeholder buy-in. Whenever there's somebody that's hesitant about this, maybe the product team doesn't like A/B testing, and the marketing team is trying to convince them. Maybe that will. Maybe the positive results. And long-term commitment. If you have the success, you're able to celebrate it, show something for your work, there's going to be much more probability that you're going to be able to do it for the long run. Not just now, not just those 5 experiments we've tried because it was so obvious to do, because that's what the article on HubSpot said. So how can you start? because it's all about taking the first step. You have to have a team. You can start with a team of one. Don't get me wrong. You can do it on your own. Maybe you're going to have a little help that you need from a developer, from a designer, from a copywriter, from a marketer, from somebody else in your team. And that's going to be able to move the first experiment across the line to just get it going. Maybe eventually you're going to need more time devoted to the experimentation because the project is going to grow and you're going to need more help. So maybe half the time of another developer, half the time of another designer. So usual growth teams are focused around product marketer, product development. So 1, 2, 3 developers, depending on how easy are the tests to ship. A designer who's going to make it look pretty and actually approachable instead of what I'm able to do because my design skills are nowhere to be seen by you. This is all Midjourney, not me. I didn't draw this. And an analyst. You have to have somebody to understand what the data is. How are we going to measure whether it was successful or not? So next, the toolbox. What tools? That Adam's already mentioned quite a few, like email marketing for e-commerce is Klaviyo. For newsletters, it's MailChimp. A/B test used to be Google optimized, but turning it off. So now it's about, for example, visual website optimizer, or creating landing pages on Unbounce, which has an A/B testing feature as well, or using Google Sheets as the easiest way to store all your ideas and your experiments and your results, because everybody can reach it from your team, and everybody knows how to use it. Experiment backlog. All right. So you start with an idea. If I change A, we're going to be able to achieve B. That's your hypothesis. Then how do we do it? We do it on this page. We change this copy. We change that image. OK, next. What is the KPI? Conversion rate, traffic, high pricing that's going to be, no, not pricing, revenue that's going to be generated. You always have to have an experiment idea of what you're going to do, hypothesis of what you believe is true, that you're going to either confirm or defirm, not defirm. Exactly, thank you. And you need a KPI that you're tracking it on. Because if the A/B test doesn't have any data behind it, how do you know what won? How do you know what's the result and the conclusion from it? And through that, you're not going to be able to move forward because you're going to be like a child in the fog. Experiment backlogs are very easy to build. There are plenty of templates online you can Google and download and you put into a Google spreadsheet. Next, running the experiments, not being afraid, creating the minimum viable product, minimum viable test for you to be able to put together to give to the market, whether that's on your website, on your social media, in your ad campaigns, in your product, in your email. Start somewhere that you're going to feel safe and secure enough that you own it, that you're going to be able to move it forward. So it's not scary, so that it's not going to be the end of the world like with Tumblr and Yahoo. I don't want to lose 230 million. So it's going to be fine if you are going to fail, because that's normal. I failed many times, and I'm still here. People want to hear what I've done, so take it from me. Great process from Brian Balfour, co-founder of Reforge. Again, Adam had that slide, and it just means so much to both of us that we both wanted to have it here, because the more you see it, the more you're going to remember it. The process is brainstorm, so the backlog. Prioritize, understand what goes first. Test it, so put it into execution. Then implement, start getting data, analyze the data you've got, and systematize. So learn it all and repeat. It's an iterative process, never-ending story. Growth is never done. So some of you may have thought, wasn't this supposed to be a talk about growth opportunities and execution? Well, experimentation encapsulates all of that into one thing. And this is the face I was hoping anybody would make, but only I will. Everybody loves good John Cena. Especially the clicker. So one last piece of advice. If you are going to leave with anything after my presentation, I would hope that it's going to be just this one thing. Think big. You have big goals, but start small. Ship small things. You have to start somewhere. Get the ball rolling. Achieve the snowball effect. Like the snowball rolling down the hill. It starts like a small snowball, but it's getting momentum, getting more snow. It's getting bigger and faster. And hopefully that's going to be you. So one ask at the end, if you remember, think big, start small, come up with one experiment, execute on it, make it quick, easy, and relevant to your goals. If you do that, you're already making a step ahead in both your career, your team's way of doing things, and learning and moving your company forward towards its goals. And achoo. Any questions? Great.
Thank you for presentation. One of the slides was about focus. And for example, it's very nice when you have big project and you have lots of data.
Yeah.
So you can test on, let's say, one funnel layer, do lots of tests. For example, your goal is to increase C0, for example, like acquisition. And you can run, let's say, 100 tests here. But in real life, we have usually small projects, and we don't have enough data. And for example, our goal could be, let's say, increase revenue from the project, let's say. And let's say we test on the first layer on acquisition. And on acquisition, you can test, let's say, title page, pricing, rest pages have less visitors. And but you have energy, so you start testing on other layers. Of course, if they do not conflict with each other. So my question is, what about focus here? Because if you have not enough data, you do lots of tests on different layers.
Sure.
So where is the focus in that case? Or focus is just increasing the conversion, or like increasing the revenue, but increasing the revenue is like common goal, it's like no goal at all.
Yeah. Start at the top, wherever you have the most data, and it's usually top of the funnel when it comes to getting traffic. Because then, if you have more traffic, you're going to be able to get faster tests on the conversion rate. So like the funnel goes, start at the top of the funnel. See how are you going to be able to get more people to come to you, to see if they're going to convert, and to see what is the value of traffic between the different sources, between the different campaigns. And once you're able to optimize that and get more people to your website, then you can start going in the activation phase. So are they going to click on submit my email? Are they going to click on schedule a meeting? Are they going to sign up? So do it one step at a time and keep your focus.
And just one more question, maybe, I don't know if others don't have. For example, you have, let's say, one funnel layer, and you really need to increase here. Let's say, I don't know, let's say revenue, for example, payment wall. And you see that just really on some layers you have really bad conversion. You ask for the competitors, and competitors have, let's say, high results here. But you like stuck with ideas. You really read on the internet, you like test with your team, but you, let's say, you didn't hear before about Ilya, he just talked in Lithuanian. He said that ideas usually works like 100 ideas do not work at all, and then one, I don't know, explodes.
Yeah.
And the question is, what you usually, like, what you advise to do, for example, if somebody like stuck in one layer. Let's say they do lots of hypotheses, they see what is outside, they saw competitors, maybe but team like, wow, the conversion is low on that layer, we need to do something. So what you would advise? Like,
sure. Sometimes the product is just, maybe now the product itself is not good enough. Maybe the way you talk about it is not good enough. Maybe there's just not enough need in the market, because not every startup is going to succeed. So you can work hard, as in there's a saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you're not going to make it drink. And therefore, you're not going to be able to force people to convert. You can buy traffic to come to your website, and they're giving you a chance to convert. But otherwise, all you can do is try and change your approach. Speak from a different perspective. Maybe try going benefit-driven, maybe feature-driven, maybe outcome-driven. There are so many different ways that you can psychologically approach this, because at the end of the day, it's about how people think about what they see, how do they perceive your product versus their problem, or maybe how you are targeting the right people. So there are so many variables, you can always try and find something new.
I thought the right question was the right answer was like to hire a growth teacher, but
Hello, my name is Marius. Thank you, Tomek, for presentation. Energetic, very. My question is about the team that you built, a growth team, right? When you're a person of one, and you have a startup or an idea, but you understand that you need a team right away. What are the pitfalls of building that team that you see, and what suggestions do you have for a people of one?
Can you give me the context of are you a founder? What are you doing? So maybe we can work on that case.
Yeah, I'm a founder. I have an idea. I kind of tested it, and I see that I need the speed, I need the growth right now, and then and I'm thinking about the team, but I don't know where to actually start there. And I assume that there's a pitfalls, but I don't know what are they. So yeah.
What kind of maybe acquisition channels or what kind of ideas have you already confirmed that you have product market fit or that the channel works for you? Maybe that's something that we're going to be able to help with.
Well, I tested that idea with some friends or some people that I know, and they kind of like the product. So I need to move on.
All right. So the first thing I would say is for you to be the growth team. Like in the article Adam has shown, you are the original growth person. You are the founder. Nobody has more context about it than you do. And the best way to increase the amount of time you have to work on it is delegate. And the fastest way to find people to delegate for is to get freelancers, get contractors to, whether that's create the content, build a campaign, do the outbound, do the research for you. So you just brief them, give them as much context as possible. What is the current state? What is your idea? What is the desired state? An example of the desired state for you, so that you're going to be able to be there, because if you don't learn, nobody will. Nobody's going to remember how it works. And your idea is so deeply rooted in your head that you're going to be able to understand right away, how did that work? How is that changing my perception of the problem, of the solution, of the persona, of the way I talk about it? So it all has to go through you in the beginning, at least, until you are able to get some validation. And then seeing what channels, what messages work. Start hiring, for example, a project manager, because it's easier with a project manager who's going to be able to translate all of your learnings into developing a network of people that are going to build it for you, because hiring takes time, is risky. I've done so many hires that I then regret it, but you have to learn one way or another that right now I'm a very big proponent of using freelancers instead, because it's faster, easier, maybe a little bit more expensive, but you're able to get results faster, and you know what you're paying for exactly, so they're going to deliver. As long as you are learning and they are doing the work, this is the perfect scenario, and that's where I would start.
And if I could piggyback on that, actually,
Sure.
So maybe the next question would be where to look. So my personal advice from my experience would be to go open source, present your project or your idea a little bit, for example, on LinkedIn, and do a bit of a public tender. Ask people, are they interested? Would they be interested in working with you? And then you can open a lot of conversations with your network and your network's network, and get a bit of a personalized human-to-human interaction before actually going through ads or CVs. So I'd really recommend doing kind of open source public tender micro project for that as well.
Doing things that don't scale.
Exactly.
100%. I'm doing that with clients right now.
Yeah.
I'm the not scale part with my team.
And the annoying person between you and lunch. I just wanted to give you a little task. If you could give me like an elevator pitch about growth marketing. So imagine I'm a founder or a 6-year-old or a founder and a 6-year-old, and I have no idea. Why do I need you? Why do I need growth marketing? What is it? Like, are we talking about digital marketing, like classic marketing, all the yada? I heard it all. I have no idea. Sell it to me.
All right. I like to treat this as my grandma test. How would I explain what I'm doing to my grandma? So in an elevator pitch to my grandma, I would say, this is the market. This is my product. Now, how do I let people know about my product? Because there is this huge thing of internet that so many people are on, but it's crowded. There are so many messages. It's impossible to keep up. How do I find the right people? How do I find the right message? How do I find the right channels to reach them? And how do I make them do the action that I want? This is the step-by-step process that requires for you to focus on what I have, who it's for, and how do I want to help them. With that, you then choose what actions can I take to do it, and how can I track it? And repeat it. Learn from what you've done, measure what you've done, and use those learnings to get the next iteration, like in that slide. This is as simple as it is. I hope my grandma would understand. I know, oh yeah. They've been through a lot.
We're going to be grandpas and grandmas one day as well. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fine, thanks.
Any more questions?
Yes, we have one question here. What is the most optimized way to make your potential customer know about you when you are fresh in the market?
Ooh, everybody wants to know that. So I've studied economy, so I'm going to start with it depends, because there's no one-size-fits-all. There's no silver bullet. But there are places like BetaList, like Product Launch, like Indie Hackers, where people who build products and want to get the first users, first usage into their product and see what the feedback is. There are communities that are hungry for trying out new things that are applicable to their problems. And also do the reach out, do the unscalable. A very good example is in Y Combinator, Collision Brothers, who built Stripe. Their customer personas were exactly who was in Y Combinator with them. Startup founders, online businesses. And what they did is one line of code on your website could allow you to accept payments from users. So they went in, told about it to the other founders. They went, OK, let's do it. Let's install it on your website. They literally sat with them on their laptop. They installed the one line of code, and they made it happen. Do the unscalable, learn from that, and then proceed with those learnings. Because they can go in a million different directions. Thank you. Thank you, Philip. It was a pleasure.
One last, what is the limits of experiments per funnel? Just it was on one conference. They said like there are also some limits. For example, let's say acquisition. They said if you test, sometimes you need to stop and focus on another place because growth hackers are also not free, and like you need to focus somewhere. And maybe you have like some, I don't know, amounts of experiments per funnel that you really said that is enough. Or
it's always about good and done is better than perfect. If you try to optimize too much, you're going to go in the wrong direction eventually, because good is better than perfect. And if you get it to a good spot, you can try and focus on a different area. It's all a matter of understanding, of calculating where the biggest opportunity is. So there's always big leverage. If you have a lot of traffic and low conversion, let's focus on conversion. If you have high conversion and low pricing, let's focus on how we are going to increase the customer revenue. So it's all a matter of, like in the slide Adam shared, not just focus on acquisition like the traditional marketing. Look at the funnel holistically. From the bottom up. Maybe the opportunity is in referral because you have a strong community. Maybe it's in your add-ons that you're going to be able to give to the people for example, $5 a month, and that's going to generate a lot of revenue. I've recently been to a really cool talk where a product had a feature about adding Google Analytics to their product, but nobody was using it. Then they were thinking, let's talk to the users if they would like to get more data into analytics. They said, yes, let's do it. So they sneakily got it out of the product, packaged it as an add-on, and they said, $5 a month, you can do it. They're making $200,000 a year from that. So there's always a different way.
This feature was free before, yes?
Yeah, but it wasn't appreciated enough, so they made them pay for it.
Just took free feature outside.
Yeah, for example.
Packet, sell for $5 and...
Yeah. But they got that from listening to their customers who were like, yeah, I want more data on how your product is working with my website, for example. We have that, $5 a month. Power of add-ons. I learned about it 2 weeks ago. You never stop learning. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I will see you later. If you have any questions, come up to me.